Hello and welcome to another budget diecast restoration. I'd like to show you this. It's a Dinky 623 armoured wagon made in England by Meccano Limited. I'm not quite sure the year, but it looks to be like probably the 1950s. I acquired it yesterday from a friend of mine, and as you can see it's in a very sorry state for itself. It did have all four tyres on it, but they got more or less like this. Over years the rubber just perishes, it becomes brittle, it cracks, misshapen. I mean, the weight of the vehicle itself, it's obviously been in a hot place, the tyres melted and it's gone like that. So yeah, it does need new tyres. There is various websites, as I think I've mentioned before in other videos, that do these what do you call them, replacement tyres. They reproduce the reproduction tyres. They're not expensive, so I'll just get a packet of those. And as you can see, I don't know how this has happened, but the axle, the rear axle, this rear wheel here, is more or less at a right angle. I mean, that has taken some clobbering. I don't know how the heck the child who was playing with this has managed to bend it there. But what I'm going to have to do is, because of the angle it's bent at, I'm not going to be able to get my rotary drill anywhere near the lip of this wheel here, because what I generally do is just grind away this tiny little burr here and then the wheel comes off. But because it's so close to the wheel, I'm scared I'm just going to scuff the wheel up. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm actually going to cut the axle in half on both wheels, because this one's bent as well, it's buckled in the middle. Goodness knows, I mean, it's like I say, 50 odd years old. You can see a real bend there as well. So there's nothing really straight about it. Stuff in the wheels as well, I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like plasticine. But yeah, the base is bent anyway. These are all bent in. Supports, both sides. This is all rusted, it's been pushed in, so I'm going to have to drill this rivet out. The tow bar is actually not in that bad a condition. So what I'm going to do, rather than drill out this rivet, which looks quite substantial, and I'm to retap and screw it, is I'm probably going to leave that in. And when it comes to stripping it and respraying it, I'll probably just mask that off and then give it a coat of black satin. These little details here on the back, and there's one on the front, I'm probably going to have to either paint them myself or have a look on these Recover Toy websites where I might be able to get some reproduction water slide transfers. But yeah, until that happens, I'm probably just going to have to paint them on myself or substitute them for something similar. I do have various old model kits up in my room that might have that sort of transfer on it anyway. So what we'll do is we'll start getting the Dremel ready. Well, it's not a Dremel, it's a Parkside tool with a very similar. And what I'm going to do is clip through these. I might just try using my side cutters just to see if they're strong enough to actually chomp through it. But sometimes they're just a little bit too thick to cut through. So I mean, I'll give it a bit of a... Oh, hello. Yeah, no, that did go. And the wheel shot off somewhere over here. Where on earth did that go? Well, it's over here somewhere. Well, I'm going to have to find that in a moment. So, yes, it's so bent there, it wouldn't even go around. Oh, there it is. Haha. Bit of the axle shot off, but there's the wheel. So I better put that in a little tub to keep safe. There's one. This one now I'm going to have to cut a little bit closer because it won't go around the bend. I'd forgotten I'd sharpened these the other day, so obviously putting a better edge on them has worked a treat. So there's the other wheel in the pot. And what I shall do this time on the front one, I shall hang on to it. I don't want the... there we go. Right, so that's the front end done. So they simply just slide out. and you can really see now just how bent and distorted that is. I mean, it's really only a thin bit of tin. I'll be surprised to see just how thin it is. So what we can do, just for curiosity's sake, every good engineer's got one of these, so we'll just zero that and we'll just see how thin that is. So it's 0.39 mil. There, 0.4 there. Yeah, it's thereabouts. It's around about 0.5 mil in places where it's been buckled. Obviously rust has taken its toll. 0.41. So it's varying in several places. There's obviously builds up of rust, and so yeah, it's quite thin. Quite thin. So I could, if I wanted to, if it was that badly damaged, I've got plenty of old bits of tin here, fabricate a new one, but I think this one's going to be salvageable as long as I do it properly. What I'll probably do is just use my little gas blower here, heat it up gently and straighten it out. But all I can do now at the moment is drill out this little rivet, and then hopefully this bit should pop off. So I'll just get the rest of these wheels off, the axles. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up having to reform, make new axles, and I'll show you how I'll do that in just a moment. But in the meantime, I'm just going to go and fetch my drill. Okay, so I've got the trusty drill. It's probably a bit big. I'll probably need a small one for doing some of these models. So what I'm doing is the rivet here is going to need drilling out. Now luckily for me, and well, I haven't got a centre punch anyway, but it's got a slight indentation there which will help the drill bit grip. Now I've picked up this one. Best way to match it up is to offer up the end, and that is the same diameter, give or take a couple of thou. Yeah, that's more or less the same one. So what I'm going to do now is pop this into my vise, which I featured in other restoration videos, just to give it a bit more grip. It's let me just adjust the camera over to there. It's got let me just show you, it's got rubber grips on it to stop any sort of further damage to the model itself. So, and it grips it as well. Being rubber, it'll actually grip the model quite well, stop it sliding about when I'm trying to drill it. Right, so just bear with me. Just trying to get my camera straight. So where is it? This is going to be a two-part video because I haven't got the parts to replace, like the tyres, anything like that. So we're going to have to start off just with a basic strip down of this vehicle. So I'm just going to just gently apply a bit of pressure. Just to get rid of, that is quite a hard rivet. These older models I've found, some of them were made of a stronger alloy, because that's taken a lot more pressure than I'm used to. Still a bit of a lip on there, so the aluminium swarf that's coming off is rod's getting smaller and smaller, so I think with a bit of an effort, it's just what I don't want is tiny little bits of swarf on my workbench. I'll just empty that out in there. And what we'll do now is get to the point where, right there, so when the camera decides to focus, I don't know why this camera doesn't seem to want to focus sometimes. There we go. As you can see, it's been drilled out to a point where I'm hopefully, with a little bit of a tease, I'll just use this broken screwdriver. It doesn't matter if I bend this anymore, so it needs, there we go. Ha. I wish they were all as easy as that. So now that is out. That's it. Very simple casting. Unlike other models, it doesn't have any plastic insert for a windscreen, which makes my job a lot easier. Now, as you can see, this is in, as they say in London, a right 2 1/8. This is properly bent, but with the help of a little blow lamp, I should be able to straighten that out. Or even without a blow lamp, because this tin's quite, for its age, it's quite pliable, quite strong. So I'm even able to straighten that out as it should be. I might just get away with this, you know. That is straightening out really well. So sometimes they need just a little bit of heat. What I will actually do later on is probably just clamp it up in my metal vise, just to produce a nice straight edge to it. Both sides of the vise, once they're clamped together, it should just flatten it out just a little bit more. But this is, well, that's 100 times better. That is more or less back to its original shape. So yeah, no, I'm happy with that. I must stop saying that. I should probably get done for trademark infringement from a fellow modeller, because that's his catchphrase, you see. I must either get my own or not bother. I could say I'm pleased with that, but that's still a bit obvious. No, fantastic. No, so what I shall do with that is I shall rub it down. I don't think it needs paint stripper because there's no paint on it. I think this is just a, well, it might have originally had some sort of coating on it, but I shall give it a rub down with a rotary brush, wire brush, see how it comes up. Worst case scenario, I don't really want to stick it in caustic soda because I'm not sure how the metal is going to react to it. I shall clean it up as best I can with a rotary tool and then probably spray it satin black. So now this one, unfortunately, what I did plan on doing was drill and tapping it and putting a screw to hold this back on. But I don't know if you can see the thickness between that rivet and the base of the truck itself is probably about 1.5 mm or 2 mil. So the chances of me being able to drill through there with enough thread to get a screw on, it means it's going to pop through the other side. So I'm going to have to be quite creative, and what I'll probably do is I'll still keep that as a fixing point, so it's still got a little bit of a barrel on it, but when it comes to actually putting this back on, what I shall probably do is I shall run some score lines again with a rotary disc along here, and I shall use some of my favourite Griller. I mean, I love this stuff. I'll find the other part. It comes in two parts. It's like an epoxy resin, hardener and resin. It is absolutely strong as anything when it's set. I've used this on plenty of models. With super glue, after a while it does degrade, break down any sort of moisture, and it becomes a bit weak. Again, as you can see, Gorilla, great stuff. Top tip, if you want to support something when you're using super glue and make the join even stronger, there's a great way of doing that with, and you won't believe it, baking soda. Bit of baking soda around the super glue, it sets like concrete. So just as you apply the super glue to the joint and there's any excess around the outside, pop a bit of baking soda on, just dab it in, firm it in, and it sets like concrete. It really is good stuff. So that is probably something I won't be using this time. I shall probably just end up relying on the resin itself. So now, although this model has got not too bad paint, I mean it is obviously worn and scuffed, and it's pretty dirty, and it's full of fluff. In Christ knows how many years of fluff that is, and Christ knows what it is, probably just bits of hair and whatnot. Is I do feel that I'm going to have to strip this down. Now again, I've got two options. I can use caustic soda, which is my preference because the paint comes off with less fuss than paint stripper. With paint stripper, you've got to paint it on, you've got to make sure you get it all in the corners. It's slimy, it stinks, and it takes forever to brush it off and to wash it off, and it doesn't always get all the paint off straight away. So what I tend to do, no, actually thinking about it, I'm not sure if my jar's big enough. This is me jar, no, oh, it just fits in there. Oh, made for the job. So my option is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of capfuls of caustic soda in there, as per previous video. I'm going to do a bit of name dropping. I bought this at the local store called Trago Mills. I think it was about £3 or £4, that's all. Be careful. Very, very toxic stuff. What you don't want to be doing is pouring it down the drain, getting it into the water source or anything like that, because it will go nasty. What I do with this is I got a bucket outside with sand in. The remains of the water, I chuck it in that, and then after a while, obviously it soaks up and it evaporates, and the caustic soda, and I've got a little area where I just bury it into a far corner of the garden, and so far I haven't killed anything. But yeah, it is very corrosive, as you can clearly see by the bottle. Get it on your hands, it will burn, and it will actually eat through certain surfaces. So you've really got to be careful. So what I tend to do, like I said, with some of these older models, when you've got a thin bit of tin like that, I tend not to chance it. But with these alloy castings, they're thick, they're sturdy, and it should work okay. Now then, always wear PPE when you're handling this stuff. I've got my mask here. I will actually do this outside where there's plenty of open air and fresh air, and also in case there is a little bit of a splash tracks when you add hot water, it does tend to bubble up and boil a bit and spill out over. I will be wearing my prescription safety lenses. So if you just bear with me just 1 second, I'll just need to go and boil the kettle, and I'll show you how I'm going to do this. So I'll just go and do what I need to do.